Welcome in, everyone. I hope you guys are doing great wherever you're watching from today. We have an interesting topic to discuss, and that is China's revamped, updated war plan for Taiwan. There's been some great research that has been done, and President Trump and Chinese dictator Xi Jinping just actually had a phone conversation where Taiwan was a major focus of the conversation. Of course, it would be rather surprising, if not downright shocking, if it wasn't a major topic of conversation, seeing as how that is what China cares about the most. That is what Xi cares about the most. And the United States has serious commitments, not just to Taiwan, but several other allies in the region. And many military experts believe it could be the catalyst in a potential invasion of Taiwan for direct military action between the United States of America and China. And that would be the first time two highly advanced militaries. Of course, our military is the most highly advanced, but China is trying to rapidly expand. That would be the first time we saw combat like that in a very long time. So I'm going to break down what is going on, what the report suggests, what China's strategy is, and just how deadly it might be for its own people, essentially leading the sheep to the slaughter, leading the lambs to the wolves, if you will. But China doesn't really care. They think they have the numbers. They don't really care how many people lose their lives. But before we get into it, as always, please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free. Huge boost to the channel. Comment with your thoughts below. Do you want to see the United States deter China from invading Taiwan? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that bell. All notifications turned on. You won't miss a thing. And then right here, Instagram, David_Hookstead, XD Hookstead. That's where you can find me on social media. And we just launched 2 premium membership tiers where you get a bunch of benefits, inside access, members only stuff. I'm really excited to kind of bring this channel into the next phase. So please, the link to both of those is right in the comments and in the pinned comment and in the bio. Now let's get into it. We know, I'm going to throw this up on the screen. So right here's Taiwan. There is mainland China. They are separated by about 100 miles of water. That is what separates China from Taiwan. We know that China is hell-bent under Xi's leadership to take Taiwan. They believe it's theirs. They believe it's the lost area of China. They believe that they don't recognize it as Taiwan. They recognize it as essentially a rebellious Chinese province. And so they have made it crystal clear that if Taiwan does not willingly reunify, that the Chinese government will order military action to retake Taiwan. Due to that, China has rapidly expanded its military capabilities. It now has more surface ships than any navy in the world, I believe. It is building at a fast rate new aircraft carriers to try to project power. It's building out its submarine fleet. But I do want to make the key point that while China's navy is growing, its technology still lags far behind the United States. It's not even close. And anyone who says that China's military capabilities, especially its naval capabilities, are anywhere near the United States is out of their mind. The amount of nuclear-powered aircraft carriers we have, nuke submarines, missiles, stealth fighters that we can get on those aircraft carriers, all of it dwarfs anything China can bring to the fight by a significant margin. So that's important to keep in mind. The Chinese strategy is to essentially go in their own shock and awe sense, overwhelm with sheer numbers to stop a defense. Now, how are they going to land enough ships fast enough to take Taiwan before the United States of America can come in and push them back? So this was actually a fascinating report from Reuters that was recently published that talks about their new strategy for taking Taiwan. It says new beach landing strategy. Still, China's naval capabilities keep growing, the Reuters analysis shows. Throughout the summer, we tracked the movements of more than 100 civilian vessels that have participated in drills like the August one or are owned by operators that often participate in military exercises. In July, we identified underway at the beach near Zhishang and spotted several deck cargo ships cruising toward the beach loaded with vehicles. So what you see here is these look like regular commercial cargo ships, but they've been outfitted or retrofitted to actually be landing craft. So what would happen is they would try to get boats across the strait disguised as cargo ships, but they would actually be carrying tanks, Humvees, vehicles, things of that nature. They have ramps at the front. They'd slam into the beach, They drop the door, and then the tanks and the vehicles would come rushing in. Of course, you'd probably have to do that. You'd want to time that with bombings on Taiwan shortly before the ships landed in order to try to give yourself, if you're the Chinese, a little bit of an advantage. It says a swarm of these civilian vessels could sharply boost the size of the forces deployed for an invasion and potentially enable China to carry out assaults at a bigger number of sites on Taiwan, according to Taiwanese and U.S. experts on amphibious warfare. Admiral Li Ximing, a former chief of Taiwan's armed forces and one of the island's leading thinkers on defense and security, said the satellite image of the August exercise revealed the PLA, the People Liberation Army of China, was now experimenting with craft smaller than bigger civilian vessels used in earlier drills. He's quoted as saying, "My guess is that they are trying to develop the kind of large number of small amphibious landing ships supported by the civilian sector. During wartime, they would conduct multi-point small amphibious landing operations. This could be more difficult for Taiwan defenders to repel or repulse than landings at fewer sites." Reuters findings show China has reached a point where it is developing concrete invasion plans, said Yester Yu, a retired Taiwanese naval officer who served on Taiwan's National Security Council. This kind of thing worries me more than their aircraft carriers. It shows they are serious about putting troops on the ground. The roll-on, roll-off ferries have participated in Chinese military exercises since at least 2019, according to a U.S. military report. Images from state media show that some of them can drop off or pick up amphibious assault vehicles directly from the water using retrofitted ramps. Deck cargo ships have moved to military equipment during some earlier exercises, said Dom, who has written extensively about China's shadow navy. But this summer is the first time these vessels have been seen unloading vehicles directly on a beach, according to 7 naval warfare experts. The PLA continues to demonstrate new capabilities that are putting them on a path to having the amount of capability and capacity they need to conduct a full-scale invasion. Here's another look at it. So it's 90 meters long, according to this. You can see all the different vehicles, trucks, bulldozers, it looks like. These ships are numerous and play an important role in Chinese commercial co-shipping, but ship registration databases are not detailed enough to distinguish them from other cargo vessels, so a precise tally is not known. So right here, I'm going to put this on the screen. So this is one of the things. Now, again, information on this is not, it's difficult because China's not exactly letting the world know what they're doing. So it would look something like this. They could come in with one of these barges. Look here, something like this. Hold on. Screen's acting up on me. So a little more information. The Shikao, if I butchered that, let me know in the comments below. Of amphibious assault barges have been built for the Chinese PLA Navy by Comtech. A set of 3 of the barges used for extended causeway and pier from deep water to land. 2 sets have been observed, and the first set was observed undergoing sea trials in March 2025. So it says the barges have been speculatively linked to a potential future invasion of Taiwan by the People's Republic of China as part of its plan for Chinese unification. The website Naval News wrote that a consensus among naval analysts is that the barges would be used for amphibious landings and that the barges would allow China to pick new sites and complicate attempts to organize defenses and could land tanks to a coastal road instead of heavily defended beaches. All right, I'm going to pull this off the screen. I'm going to give you my reaction. Then we're going to get into what Trump and Xi talked about. This will be a bloodbath for the Chinese if they attempt this. And I'll tell you why. These are just going to be sitting targets, slow moving targets for any air power that gets over there, or for United States submarines. These barges are going to get torn to shreds. Now, does that mean the strategy will fail? It does not, because if you put more boats in the water than the U.S. and Taiwan have missiles and weapons, if you fire all your missiles and there's still boats left, some of those boats are going to make it to the shore. Question is, do enough boats make it to the shore to where they can then create a beachhead? The answer to that is we won't know until it comes time to find out. But this strategy from China, you would lose tens of thousands minimum in the first day of operations. You might lose 90% of these ships. And then how many people are on each ship? 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. The submarines are going to feast on these. Drones are going to feast on these. Fighter jets are going to feast on these. It is going to be brutal, savage, and ugly, borderline barbaric. But China does not care. Their strategy is we have all the numbers on our side. The United States is dealing with what's called tyranny of distance. We can only fight with what we can bring to the fight. China can put everything they want on their shores, and they're making a gamble. They're making a strategic gamble. China does not, and I know this from sources, China does not believe the United States will actually bomb China proper, right? They don't think we'll bomb their staging areas on the shore. They think we will hit their ships in the water, but we wouldn't cross that red line, because then they would bomb our mainland. They would bomb Guam. They would bomb probably our sites in Japan, South Korea. And then at that point, you likely have World War III. Because if South Korea and Japan get bombed, you better believe they are going to respond. So China is willing to lose tens of thousands of people on day one, attempting a D-Day style landing at multiple different beaches, multiple different landing points with this cloak and dagger civilian barge system. As soon as we see those ships coming, drones will be in the air, fighter jets will be in the air. Any submarines that are in the strait will absolutely annihilate them. It is going to be brutal. It is going to be graphic. It is going to be bloody. Speaking of which, I'm going to put this up on the screen for you. So this is what Trump and Xi talked about. It says China's Xi tells Trump Taiwan's return key to post-war order. Xinhua reports. Chinese President Xi Jinping told U.S. President Donald Trump during a phone call on Monday, again, I'm filming this on November 24th, so a phone call today, that Taiwan's return to China is a key part of the post-war international order, state news agency Xinhua reported. China and the United States once fought side by side against fascism and militarism and should now work together to safeguard the outcomes of World War II, Xi was quoted as saying by Xinhua. That is a interesting way to sum that up. We did fight the Japanese in the Pacific. We did crush the Japanese in the Pacific. We did crush the Germans in the Axis powers in Europe. That war was going to go that way whether China fought it or not. Now, did China lose a lot of people? Yeah, they got steamrolled early on by the Japanese. That's 100% true. That's a very generous framing for the pro-China side. Says a White House official confirmed Trump and Xi had spoken by phone but gave no details. China regards Taiwan as part of its territory and has not ruled out the use of force to take control of it, though the island's government rejects Beijing's claims and says only Taiwan's people can decide their futures. China's locked in its biggest diplomatic crisis for years with Japan after Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi said this month a hypothetical Chinese attack on democratically governed Taiwan could trigger a military response from Tokyo. So there you go. Even the Japanese are saying, if you invade Taiwan, we will respond militarily. Now, obviously, Japan's military is a fraction of the size of China's. It's been that way ever since World War II, and we beat them in World War II, but it is sophisticated. It is advanced. Japan has some advanced military capabilities, of course, provided and overseen by the United States of America. Japan has turned into a significant U.S. ally in the region. So that is the Chinese position, remains consistent. So the timeline for a potential invasion by Japan against Taiwan is 2027 to 2032. That's where they think the timeline is. That's where military experts and analysts believe China will attempt to strike. The best way to make sure that doesn't happen is to make sure our foot stays on the gas and we have strength, peace through strength. We have strong deterrence. China's not going to want to test the United States military if it knows it's going to get crushed. It's when they start to think they might not get crushed and they might be able to pull it off. They might just be crazy enough to do it. So the greatest way to win a war is to never have to fight a war because your deterrence and your weapons are so strong. I've said this before. I'll say it again. What happens in the Middle East really doesn't impact your day-to-day life. What happens between Ukraine and Russia, even though there are massive implications there, doesn't really impact your day-to-day life. The fact of the matter is this. If China and the United States get into a shooting war, that will impact your day-to-day life. Our supply chains are linked, our economies are linked, and China has a military that would be able to inflict significant casualties, even if the United States is able to beat them back from Taiwan. So the stakes are incredibly high, and we shouldn't pretend they're not. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. How do you think this plays out? Do you think this strategy of taking these cargo vessels and trying to slam them into the beachheads and unload as many troops as they can will work? Or do you think the U.S. will sink them all in the strait? Let me know in the comments below. Hit that bell. All notifications turned on. You won't miss a thing. And then right here, Instagram, David_Hookstead, X D Hookstead. That's where you can find me on social media. My DMs are wide open. Reach out with anything you got. And then again, we've launched 2 exclusive membership tiers. I kept them both incredibly cheap for the monthly price because I want as many people to be involved in the exclusive access as I can. That includes members only stuff such as members only comments, members only live streams. And if you are a member and you comment on any of the public videos, you will always get a response. That is my guarantee to you. That's all I have for you right now. I'll see you all next time. I hope you guys have a great day.